You see, there's something most people overlook in their daily routines. Something so small, so ordinary, that they dismiss it completely. But let me tell you right now, timing matters. Not just for meetings or appointments. I'm talking about spiritual timing. The rhythm of your life, the energy that surrounds you when you do even the most routine of tasks, like washing your clothes. And I want you to listen closely, because I'm not just talking about what happens on the outside. I'm talking about what happens in the spirit. There are certain hours in the day, and more importantly, in the night, when the spiritual realm is more active than the physical. And if you're not paying attention, if you're just going through the motions without sensitivity, you could be opening the door to things you don't want. Poverty, bad luck, delay, confusion, all because you chose to do laundry at the wrong hour. Now, some of you might think, but what does laundry have to do with my finances? What does it have to do with spiritual matters? You see, it's not about the laundry itself. It's about what time you're doing it. Because when you step out of divine timing, when you act during spiritually sensitive hours, especially hours that are reserved for warfare, intercession, or rest, you unintentionally interrupt the flow of peace in your home. You might think you're just getting chores done late because you've had a busy day, but what you're really doing is agitating the spiritual waters. Yes, there are spiritual consequences to actions taken at spiritually charged hours. There's a reason ancient cultures, even those that never met, all agreed on one thing. There are hours that are sacred, there are hours that are cursed. Midnight to 3 a.m. has always been recognized as the witching hour, not just because of folklore, but because of what actually happens in the unseen realm. Demonic activity heightens, negative energies move, and while most people are asleep, if you're up and active, especially doing things that stir water, which represents spiritual life, you may be disrupting more than you know. Water carries memory. Water holds frequency. And when you activate that element at the wrong time, you risk inviting misalignment into your spiritual and physical world. There are people who constantly feel like they're swimming against the current of life, always behind, always burdened, always just trying to catch up. Could it be that they've unknowingly created cycles of disruption by doing things at the wrong time? You don't realize it, but your home has its own spiritual rhythm. When you honor that rhythm, when you stay in step with divine order, peace reigns. But when you violate that order, by cleaning, washing, or even speaking out of turn in the wrong hour, you can shift the atmosphere and open doors you never meant to open. All of a sudden, money dries up. All of a sudden, arguments erupt for no reason. All of a sudden, the job offer falls through, or sickness shows up unannounced, and you're left wondering why. It wasn't the washing. It was when you washed. Some people think spiritual warfare only happens in churches or prayer closets. No, it happens in your kitchen, in your laundry room. It happens when you're tired, when you're anxious, and you decide to do one more load at 2 a.m. to get ahead. But you're not getting ahead. You're getting pulled back. Because the hour you're operating in is not neutral, it's charged. And instead of resting or praying or just allowing your home to breathe in silence, you're stirring things up, and not always the good things. You were not created to function in chaos. You were created for alignment, for divine flow, for wisdom. The enemy loves to see you out of sync, because when you're out of sync, you're vulnerable. He doesn't have to attack you head on if he can simply get you to live off beat. Some of you aren't cursed, you're just out of rhythm. You're not unlucky, you're just unaware. And that's why I'm telling you today, never wash your clothes at the wrong hour. It's not superstition, it's not fear, it's awareness. Spiritual timing is real, and your life, your peace, your prosperity depends on learning how to honor it. Because when you do even the small things in divine order, the blessing flows. When you align your home with the right atmosphere, the right energy, the right hour, favor begins to find you. Doors open, confusion clears, provision comes. And it's not because you worked harder, it's because you moved in sync with the Spirit. Don't ignore the hour. Let me tell you something, not everything we call old-fashioned is outdated. Some things are sacred, some things are wise, and too often we throw away spiritual truths because they come wrapped in tradition. But I want you to pause for a moment and think. What if those cultural warnings, the ones passed down from your grandmother, your great-grandfather, those whispers about time, about when not to do certain things, they weren't just superstition? What if they were spiritual insights? What if they knew something about the way the unseen world works that we, in our modern rush, have forgotten? You see, across cultures, whether in Africa, Asia, the Caribbean, Latin America, or the Middle East, you'll find that people used to be very careful about when they did things. They had rhythms, not just for prayer or celebration, but for everyday tasks. There were times to cook, times to clean, and yes, even times to wash clothes. And certain hours were off limits, not because people were afraid, but because they were aware that life has spiritual seasons, aware that not every hour is just another slice of time. Some are windows, some are thresholds, some are battles disguised as midnight silence. Think about it. Why would generations of people, with no internet, no books to reference each other, all say the same thing? Don't sweep at night. Don't wash clothes after dark. Don't call names after a certain hour. Is that coincidence? Or is that spiritual pattern? Because when you look closer, you'll realize they weren't just handing down rules, they were handing down warnings. These were people who lived close to the earth, close to the spirit, close to the consequence of spiritual missteps. And when they said, don't do this after this hour, what they were really saying was, this hour doesn't belong to you. This hour belongs to something else. Now some might scoff and say, oh, that's just old wives' tales. But I've seen what happens when you ignore them. I've seen homes fall into cycles of poverty, confusion, and tension, all while people think they're just being productive. You think you're multitasking, staying up late to wash clothes and get ahead, but spiritually, you're stepping into sacred space with the wrong posture, because those warnings were never about control. They were about alignment, about respect, about knowing that everything has a time, and time itself is holy. When you look at scripture, when you study ancient belief systems, you begin to realize that time isn't just a human construct, it's spiritual law. The Creator divided day and night, not just for order, but for meaning. Certain hours are for rest, others are for battle. And when you ignore that order, you invite imbalance. Washing clothes might seem like a simple act, but when done at the wrong hour, especially hours when the spiritual atmosphere is tense, you're washing in rebellion against divine timing. Have you ever noticed how certain days just feel heavy? How certain hours feel eerie? There's a reason. Spirits move, energies shift. And when you're spiritually blind, you act like everything is neutral, but it's not. Every hour has a sound. Every hour has a gatekeeper. And when you break through that gate without spiritual permission, the consequences don't always show up immediately. They hide. They linger. They show up in delayed blessings, lost money, sudden illness, broken relationships. And you're left wondering, why does nothing ever work out for me? It's not always the devil. Sometimes it's disorder, sometimes it's dishonor, sometimes it's doing laundry at a time the spirit wanted silence. You must understand, when you follow cultural wisdom that is aligned with spiritual truths, you protect yourself. You bless your home. You honor the rhythm of heaven. And the rhythm of heaven is never random. It's not legalistic. It's intentional. It's designed to keep you in peace, to guard your gates, to ensure that when you do something, even as basic as washing clothes, you're not working against your own future. There's power in timing, there's power in obedience, and there's power in knowing that what your ancestors taught was not ignorance, it was insight. They didn't need degrees, they had discernment. They didn't need clocks to tell them when to stop, they had spirit, and you and I would be wise to pay attention. Because when we honor spiritual time, we align ourselves with divine favor. But when we treat every hour the same, we invite consequences we can't see until it's too late. So when the urge comes to throw in just one more load at midnight, pause. Ask yourself, what hour am I in? Whose hour is this? Because if it's not your hour, it's not your time to move. Don't violate sacred timing. There's something most people overlook when they turn on that washing machine or dip their hands into a bucket of soapy water. They think it's just laundry, just a task, just another item to cross off the list. But what if I told you, in that moment, right there, you are dealing with something far deeper than fabric and detergent. You are dealing with water. And water is not ordinary. Water is not neutral. Water is not just a liquid. It is a carrier, a conductor, a spiritual witness. And if you misuse it, especially at the wrong time, it won't just rinse your clothes. It may rinse away your blessings. Listen to me. Water has memory. Scientists are just now discovering what spiritual people have known for centuries. Water absorbs energy. It retains the frequency of whatever is spoken, felt, or done around it. That's why in sacred traditions, water is used for cleansing, for healing, for spiritual transfer. Baptisms are not done in fire, they're done in water. Ritual purifications, blessings, healings, they all involve water, because water carries power. And when you engage with it, especially in acts of cleansing, you are participating in a symbolic exchange. You are not just removing dirt, you are making a spiritual statement. I want what was on this garment off of me. But here's the part we forget. There is a right time to cleanse. There is a safe time to engage with water. And then there are hours when water should be still, when water should rest. Because if you wash at the wrong hour, especially at night when spiritual activity is thick and swirling, you are not just cleaning your shirt. You may be washing away the spiritual covering that protects your household. You may be stirring water that should not be stirred. Have you ever wondered why, in some traditions, water is left undisturbed overnight? Why holy people don't allow buckets of water to sit uncovered? Why people pour out water before dawn? It's because water not only holds intention, it receives atmosphere. It listens. It absorbs. And when you interact with it during hours that are spiritually charged, hours when warfare is active, when spirits roam, when portals are open, you risk inviting those energies into your home, into your clothing, into your life. You may be scrubbing away physical dirt, but spiritually, you could be rinsing in someone else's warfare. Think about what that means. Your laundry, your water, your hands, they become tools, they become gates. And whatever is happening in the spirit at that hour can pass through if you are unaware. That's how you open doors. That's how heaviness walks in uninvited. That's how lack settles in a house that was once full. It wasn't because you sinned, it wasn't because you failed, it was because you washed clothes with water that had absorbed more than you could see. You can feel it when you walk into some homes. There's a weight, a tension, an unsettled atmosphere. You don't know what it is. The family seems fine, the house is clean, but the spirit of the house is tired. The spiritual fabric has been tampered with, and oftentimes it started with unnoticed patterns. Night washing, water poured carelessly, hours of cleansing done with no covering, no prayer, no intention. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to wake you up, because awareness is the first key to freedom. We have to understand that even our routines can be doors, either to divine flow or to demonic interference. It all depends on how we treat the elements. Water, in the right hands at the right time, becomes a force of healing, but in the wrong hour, without spiritual alignment, it becomes a sponge for chaos. When you wash clothes, you're not just maintaining hygiene, you are resetting the energy of what clings to you. Your clothes carry your day, your stress, your sweat, your spiritual residue. Washing them is like pressing reset. But pressing reset in the wrong hour doesn't help, it backfires. It's like trying to charge your phone in a broken socket. You don't get more power, you get more damage. Some of you have been washing away your protection. Some of you have been scrubbing your prosperity into the drain. And it's not because you meant to, it's because no one told you the water listens. No one told you that water remembers. No one told you that when you wake up at 2 a.m. to wash clothes, you're doing more than laundry. You're activating a ritual. And rituals done at the wrong hour bring results you never prayed for. We need to move with wisdom, with intention, with awareness. Because when we honor the elements honor us. When we move in divine timing, creation works for us, not against us. Water cleanses best when it's aligned with the right hour, the right spirit, the right posture. Otherwise, you'll be left wondering why everything feels heavy, even after the laundry is done. Don't stir the waters in the wrong hour. There's a pattern I've seen over and over again, and I can't stay silent about it anymore. It hides itself as a normal routine, something people do without thinking, but the consequences, they are anything but normal. I'm talking about washing clothes at night. Not just late evening, deep night, midnight, 1 a.m., 2, when the house is quiet and the world is asleep. That hour may seem like the perfect time to catch up, to be productive, to get ahead, but spiritually, that hour carries weight. It is not just a quiet hour. It is a charged hour, a vulnerable hour. And too many people are unknowingly washing their lives into cycles of hardship simply because they've chosen to do a sacred act at a cursed time. You might say, but I'm just doing laundry. Yes, but look at your life. Look at the constant financial struggle. Look at the repeated setbacks. Look at the weariness that doesn't match your effort. Look at how you work and still feel stuck. There's a reason. And sometimes it's not in the big things. It's hidden in the small patterns, the habits, the timing, because when you move against spiritual order, you create disorder. And that disorder shows up as poverty, not just a lack of money, a lack of ease, a lack of flow, a lack of favor. There's something deeply spiritual about what we call mundane. Laundry isn't just a chore. It's a form of cleansing, of resetting. You're not just washing clothes. You're preparing garments to cover your body. You're cleansing the material that has absorbed your energy, your labor, your warfare. That process, if done at the right time, can renew. But done at the wrong time, it does the opposite. It depletes. It opens spiritual doors that should remain shut. And it's in the night, especially the spiritual hours between midnight and 3 a.m., where this danger hides. These are not just late hours. These are active gates in the spirit. This is the hour where warfare is at its highest, where demonic activity is thick in the air, where the veil between the seen and unseen is thinnest. And while many are asleep, the enemy is sowing seeds. He's searching for legal access, looking for activity, looking for entry. And when you're awake, handling garments and stirring water, two spiritually symbolic elements, you may unknowingly give him just what he needs, a point of agreement. Don't be fooled by how normal it feels. That's how spiritual traps work. They don't come with alarms and warnings. They come dressed as productivity. You stay up late to get things done, and you feel like you're being responsible. But what you're doing is misaligning yourself with divine rhythm. Night is for rest, for recalibration, for prayer, for silence. It is not for labor. It is not for stirring the elements. Because when you do, you agitate your own peace. And it doesn't stop at spiritual confusion. This misalignment leaks into your finances, into your home, into your rhythm. You find yourself constantly tired, spiritually drained. Nothing flows easily. Money comes but doesn't stay. Doors open but close just as quickly. It's not that God hasn't blessed you. It's that something in your daily rhythm is resisting that blessing. You've been diligent, but you've been out of season. You've been doing the right thing at the wrong time. And that's a spiritual law. When you violate timing, you delay harvest. When you labor in the wrong hour, you reap confusion. You invite delay, you stir warfare. And the worst part is you might not even see the link. You'll just feel like life is always pressing against you. And it'll keep happening until you realize you cannot afford to live carelessly. Not in these times. Not in this spiritual climate. You need to know that your actions, especially at night, carry weight. Washing clothes at night creates more than noise in your house. It creates a frequency, a spiritual signal. And the enemy, he listens to that frequency. He hears it and says, they're awake, they're active, they're exposed. Let's move in. And He doesn't come through the front door. He comes through open portals, habits, misaligned moments. That's why you'll see a pattern. People who stay up late working, cleaning, washing, often live under chronic stress, chronic lack, chronic conflict. The home begins to reflect the chaos. Relationships get strained. Peace disappears. Money gets tight. Because the spirit of poverty doesn't always show up as joblessness. It shows up as leakage. Things don't last. Efforts don't bear fruit. And night washing becomes one of its subtle doors. Not because the act is evil, but because the timing is out of order. Some of you have been faithful, hardworking, prayerful, but frustrated. And I came to tell you, it's not always about praying harder. Sometimes it's about aligning better. Protect your night hours. Guard your home's rhythm. Let the water be still. Let the laundry wait. Because peace has a time, and prosperity has a rhythm. Stop laboring in the hour designed for rest. Everything in life responds to energy. Everything. You may not see it, you may not fully understand it, but it's happening all around you. Energy is not just some abstract force floating in the universe. It's the language of creation. Heaven speaks in energy. The spirit realm responds to frequency. And so do the patterns in your life. The truth is, you are always attracting something. The question is, what are you attracting? And when we talk about doing something as seemingly ordinary as washing clothes, most people don't think energy has anything to do with it. They think it's just another chore, another load in the machine. But the spiritual realm doesn't separate big and small the way we do. It responds to alignment, to intention, and above all, it responds to energy. When you wash clothes, you're not just cleaning fabric, you're engaging in an energetic reset. You're releasing what was absorbed, shaking off what was clinging, removing the residue of days, moments, even battles. That's not just physical work, that's spiritual release. But here's the catch. If you're doing it at the wrong time, in the wrong atmosphere, with the wrong posture, that reset can turn into resistance. The universe operates in laws. Spiritual laws, laws of sowing and reaping, laws of agreement, laws of attraction. You don't have to believe in them for them to work. They're already working. And what you attract into your life is deeply tied to your patterns, your habits, your environment. If you are constantly engaging in activities during spiritually volatile hours, such as washing clothes at night, when spiritual activity is heightened, you are not attracting peace. You are not attracting favor. You are not attracting abundance. You are attracting disorder. You are aligning with the rhythm of scarcity, stress, and survival. Have you ever noticed how people who live in a cycle of just barely making it always seem to be hustling at night, always busy, always catching up, always washing, scrubbing, fixing, chasing, and yet they never feel caught up? There's a reason, because the law of attraction responds not just to what you want, but to what you practice. If you constantly practice restlessness, the spirit of rest will not dwell with you. If you constantly move in the hour meant for stillness, stillness will flee from you. You begin to call in lack without even knowing it, not with your mouth, but with your movement. When you wash clothes at night, during those spiritually sensitive hours, you're sending out a signal. Whether you mean to or not, you're saying, I'm out of rhythm, I'm in survival mode, I'm trying to do it all on my own. And that energy, that frequency, attracts more of the same, more delays, more fatigue, more imbalance. You're living in reaction, not in flow. You're working against divine order instead of aligning with it. The law of attraction is not about wishful thinking. It's not about just speaking affirmations. It's about becoming a match for what you want. If you want peace, you must become peace. If you want prosperity, you must move in the frequency of abundance. That includes honoring the sacredness of time. That includes knowing when to act and when to rest. That includes understanding that your washing machine is not exempt from spiritual timing. Everything you touch carries your energy. Your clothes carry your days. And when you wash them, you are releasing that energy into your environment. If you do it during hours that carry spiritual warfare, you may be mixing your release with battles that aren't even yours. You're calling down interference. That's why some of you feel worse after doing chores at night. The house is clean, but the air is heavy. The laundry is done, but you feel drained. That's not physical exhaustion, that's spiritual cross-contamination. When you operate in divine timing, even your smallest acts carry favor. Even laundry becomes an act of alignment. But when you ignore timing and flow, you begin to block what should be yours. You don't mean to, but you do. And no matter how much you pray or how hard you work, you keep hitting the same wall. Not because God is withholding, but because your energy is out of sync. We have to come out of survival mode. We have to stop moving in patterns that reflect poverty, even if they feel productive. Because true prosperity isn't just about money. It's about rhythm, about flow, about harmony with divine timing. And if we don't learn how to move in that flow, we will keep attracting delay after delay. So the next time you feel the urge to do that one last load of laundry at 1 a.m., I want you to stop and ask yourself, what am I aligning with right now? Because your spirit already knows. Your energy knows, and the law of attraction is listening. Attract what aligns with your destiny, not what delays it. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Blessing doesn't just come from what you do. It comes from how and when you do it. There's a difference between working hard and living wisely. A difference between being busy and being aligned. And sometimes the breakthrough you've been praying for isn't waiting on heaven, it's waiting on you to shift the way you live. Because prosperity doesn't come by accident. Peace doesn't come by luck. These things flow into lives that are ordered, disciplined, and intentional. We often talk about big spiritual moments, prayer meetings, fasting, laying hands, sowing seeds. But we forget something critical. We forget the small choices, the habits, the routines that seem so unimportant. Like what time you clean, what time you wash, what time you sleep. These are not just personal preferences. These are spiritual signals. They send messages into the atmosphere about your rhythm, your alignment, your awareness. You don't attract abundance by chaos. You don't draw in favor by rushing through life out of sync with divine order. Even the way you wash your clothes can either honor or disrupt that order. You see, when you live intentionally, even in something as simple as laundry, you create an atmosphere where peace can dwell, where provision can settle. You begin to tell the spiritual realm, this house is in order. You begin to declare with your actions, not just your words, that you're ready for increase, that you're not just chasing blessing, you're prepared to hold it. When people say, I don't know why things keep falling apart, I often ask one thing, is your life in order? Not just spiritually, but practically. Are your habits submitted to divine wisdom? Is your home reflecting peace or just activity? Because your outer world always reflects your inner condition, and your home becomes the echo of your spiritual life. Some of us are praying for promotion while living in confusion. We're asking for peace while creating disorder. And God, in His mercy, is saying, I'm not punishing you, I'm protecting you. Because to give increase to someone who's not ready is not a blessing, it's a burden. And that's why your daily choices matter. That's why you can't afford to treat your time casually. That's why even your laundry routine has to come under the authority of wisdom. There's a reason Scripture says, let all things be done decently and in order. It's not just about church services. It's about life, about rhythm, about honoring the flow that heaven has already designed for you. Because when your life comes into alignment, you don't have to chase what belongs to you. It will find you. Favor finds order. Peace finds stillness. Prosperity finds structure. So when you choose to live consciously, to rise early and do things at the right time, not rushed, not frantic, not last minute, you begin to partner with the divine. You begin to cooperate with blessing. That's how you prepare your house to receive. That's how you stop blocking what's been waiting for you, not by doing more, but by doing things right. And yes, that includes knowing when to wash your clothes. Because when you wash at the right time, you're not just doing laundry, you're declaring stability. You're telling your home, we're not in chaos, we're not behind, we're not reacting, We are in flow. We are in peace. That is a powerful declaration in the spirit. And the more you live that way, the more your home becomes a dwelling place for blessing, not just a pit stop for miracles, but a sanctuary for sustained favor. You might be thinking, is God really that concerned about what time I wash my clothes? Let me tell you, He's not watching your laundry, He's watching your alignment. Because your alignment tells Him what you're ready to carry. When He sees that you care about the small things, the daily things, the unnoticed things, He begins to entrust you with more. Why? Because you've proven you won't waste it. Because you've shown that you understand. Everything matters, everything speaks, everything sets the tone. You don't need to do something dramatic to shift your life. You just need to start living like your time is sacred, like your home is a temple, like your daily choices are preparing you for the thing you prayed for. Because they are. Every time you honor divine timing, every time you choose discipline over delay, peace over panic, you are sowing seeds into your future. So don't let your habits work against your prayers. Don't let your lifestyle contradict your faith. Begin today, this moment, to live with intention, to do even the smallest things with reverence and rhythm, because blessing doesn't dwell in confusion, and favor doesn't rest where there's no order.